Hello again. This is Curt Kusel, and this is Michelle, who's
Hi.
graciously volunteered to be my interviewee again. So, as you clearly know, that I study psychology, social psychology in this case, and specifically, we're going to talk about the attitudes, persuasion, and evaluating and responding in our social world.
Okay.
Which we all have a lot of experience with, our social world.
Okay.
So specifically, cognitive dissonance.
Dissonance?
Okay, the definition basically is an unpleasant state in which we notice that our attitudes and behaviors are not consistent. We think one thing, but yet we do another. We do this, but yet we think it's not what we should do. We eat meat, but we really don't like the idea of eating meat. So all of those things create this discourse in between our actions and our behaviors. And people don't like that. It causes stress. And we try to resolve that somehow. Mm-hmm. And a lot of ways that is resolved by changing our attitudes. It's not so bad. It's one of the things that you can do. You could also change your behavior after realizing that you're eating meat and you've learned all this stuff about animals and you really feel strongly about it. You could stop eating meat. Mm-hmm. So you could be consistent that way. You could also say, well, I'll stop eating meat next week. Or you could say, I'm not as bad as Joe down the street. Mm-hmm. Or I'll cut back on meat. Mm-hmm. Or I will eat meat just once a week. Mm-hmm. And you reconcile it that way and you go on about your life.
Right.
So when does that normally occur? Well, a lot of experiments and a lot of research and studies have found out that specifically if you have good reasons to do what you did contrary to what you think, most people are okay with that. However, if the reason that you did what you did, you don't feel is valid, or it really isn't, a good reason to do it, you really dig in at that point. They've done experiments, for example, where they've offered somebody, they were doing a very, very boring experiment. Very, very boring. They were putting pegs in holes. That's all they did for 10 minutes. And then they were asked to tell the next person that it was an interesting study and to do it. And mm-hmm. some were given $1 and some were giving $20. Mm-hmm. The people who were giving $20 had no problem with it. They maintained their feeling and said it was worth it to get $20 for that. The people that took $1 to tell people that it was exciting work, that they should do it, mm-hmm. they couldn't reconcile that. Mm-hmm. So they what they did? They said, it really wasn't that boring. So they had little reason in their own minds why they did it. So they couldn't say that I got $100 for it. Anybody would do that. I'm still not going to eat meat, even though I did it for the $100.
Right.
Given $1 to eat the meat, or to tell somebody that an experiment is exciting and mm-hmm. not boring mm-hmm. as it was, they can't say they did it for the buck. They can't live with that. So they say, it really wasn't that boring. Mm-hmm. And then they move on.
Right.
So the reason I'm explaining all this is I need to know that I want to find out if you're aware of this, okay? Mm-hmm. And if you are, how did you become aware of it? And then maybe we could talk about how you might have seen this play out in your life or maybe somebody else's.
Okay. Well, actually, the meat example
is a good one.
Is a good one because I had a roommate for 5.5 years who's a vegetarian. Was mm-hmm. vegetarian, mm-hmm. and about maybe once or twice a week, he'd make some kind of remark about, factory farming or, how meat is bad for you or bad for the environment, or he'd work in something, mm-hmm. or he'd say something that was just like, you talk about a particular ingredient, like there's an ingredient in a lot of cheese called rennet, which when you find out what it is, you don't really want to eat cheese anymore, because I had to read it to make sure whatever cheese I bought for him didn't have that in it.
You're not going to ruin cheese for me, are you?
No, I'm not. I'm not going to tell you what it is. So, because I love cheese. I mean, if I had to give up, if it was cheese versus meat, I'd give up meat in a heartbeat.
Okay.
But so I experienced that, and I did somewhat modify my eating habits as a result.
Okay. Any other examples come to mind?
I am experiencing cognitive dissonance when it comes to books, print books, because print books actually take a toll on the environment. And I love books. I have many books. When I moved last time, I had about 85 boxes of 12 by 12 by 12 books. I like to mark in them. I like to highlight and underline and put little tabs in them. I feel more comfortable with books than going to the internet. I mean, I use the internet every day, and I use it a lot, but I feel like books are more reliable sources of information because I've gone through editors and fact checkers and everything like that. So, but the problem is that books are bad for the environment. But the problem is reading ebooks on the screen is bad for your eyes if you do it a lot. And the problem is you're using, you've got the effects of once a computer is discarded, that's bad for the environment too, with all the chemicals and heavy metals and stuff. So I haven't figured out yet what to do about my reading practices.
Well, I have to do a reflection, and I could do my reflection based on what you just said, and also give you a thought at the same time.
Okay.
As you know, I'm kind of a minimalist. Okay.
Yes.
And one of the things that this group does is they think the same way. When they buy something, all the stuff that went into that, energy, resources. When they buy a brand new table, or they buy a sofa or a glass. Okay. So what do they do?
Buy used?
Yes.
I do buy used.
So that's what you could do with books.
I do buy used books.
I think you do.
A lot.
So that might reconcile that. Go out of your way to try to find a used book, which I like used books. I like the history behind it. So what do you think?
Well, I've been buying used books because of my budget. I had not thought about the fact I was minimizing environmental impact, so that's just a nice bonus.
I wish I would have thought of this yesterday because I just bought
the Mueller report.
The Mueller report right off the shelves for $20. So anyway,
I'm excited.
That'll end it for now.
Okay.
All right.
All
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye.